The county gave me a flashlight, a clipboard, and one job: count the tunnels and write the number down every hour. The map on the wall says 11. For 4 months, I wrote 11 because that's what you write. Then on a Tuesday in March, with the river 6 feet over flood stage and the rain coming down like it had a grudge, I walked the catwalk and I counted 12. I want to tell you I made a mistake. I've checked the footage. I didn't. Let me back up because the number only matters if you understand the place. The Brant Creek Flood Control Station sits at the low corner of the county, where 4 neighborhoods that flood every spring all drain toward the same river. It's not impressive to look at. From the road, it's a flat concrete building the color of a wet sidewalk, behind a chain-link fence with a gate that takes 2 hands to slide open. Inside, the building is mostly one enormous room, a kind of indoor canyon, with a steel catwalk running along the upper edge, and below it, the channel, a poured concrete trough maybe 40 feet across, where the stormwater comes in from the drainage system, gets lifted by the pumps, and gets sent out to the river on the far side. When it rains hard, the noise in there is something physical. You feel it in your teeth. The pumps are old. 2 of them are from the 70s and one was replaced in 2009, and the whole point of having an operator on site overnight during a rain event is that the automated system is not trusted to handle a real storm alone. If a pump trips, somebody has to be there to restart it before the channel backs up, and 4 neighborhoods get water in their living rooms. That's the job officially. You sit in the control room, you watch the gauges, you do hourly walkdowns, and you keep the pumps running. The pay was $18 an hour when I started, which in our county is not nothing. I took the night shift because the day jobs in town all wanted you to smile at people, and I was coming off a bad 2 years and did not have much smile left in me. My wife and I had split. The house had become my house in the worst way, meaning empty, and I wanted work where I could be alone in a room with a machine and a thermos and not have to explain myself to anyone. The flood station was perfect. I'd clock in at 6 in the evening, the day man would brief me in about 90 seconds, and then for 12 hours it was me, the hum of the pumps and the rain. The man who trained me was named Dorsey. He'd been at the station 11 years, and he had the specific calm of a person who has stopped being surprised by anything. He showed me the control panel, the pump restart sequence, the radio where the coffee was, and then he showed me the logbook, and that's the part I keep coming back to. It was a green hardbound ledger, the kind you'd see in an old accountant's office, and it lived on a metal stand bolted to the wall by the catwalk door. Dorsey opened it and tapped a column. Every hour, on the hour, he said. You walk the catwalk, you look down the channel, you count the tunnel mouths, and you write the number here, then the time, then your initials. I looked at the page. It was nothing but a long column of the number 11, hour after hour, night after night, in different handwriting going back who knew how long. 11, 11, 11, on and on. It's always 11, I said. It's always 11, he agreed. So why count? He gave me a look that I'd come to understand much later. At the time I read it as the boredom of a man who'd answered a dumb question 100 times. Because the procedure says count, he said. It's a flood station. You verify your inflows. You don't assume 11, you confirm 11. You'd be amazed how a job gets sloppy when people start assuming. That made sense. It made the kind of sense that closes a conversation. So I confirmed 11, every hour all night for 4 months. I'd walk out onto the catwalk with the rain hammering the roof, lean on the rail, and count the dark arches where the drainage tunnels fed into the channel below. They were spaced along the far wall, 11 concrete mouths of different sizes, the biggest one wide enough to drive a car through, and the smallest barely big enough for a person to crawl into. I'd count them left to right every time, a habit, and write 11, and go back to my coffee. The thing about doing something 1,000 times is that you stop seeing it. You become a machine that produces the number 11. I want to be honest about that, because I think it's why it took me so long to notice what was wrong, and I think it's why the job is designed the way it is. They don't want you alert, they want you numb. A numb man writes 11 and goes home. An alert man asks questions. I started asking questions because of the handwriting. It was a slow night in February, the channel low, just a maintenance drizzle outside, and I got bored and started flipping back through the logbook, pages and pages of elevens. But people are people, and even a column of identical numbers carries personality. You could see where one operator wrote a tight, cramped 11 and another wrote it loose and looping. You could follow a person across months and then watch them disappear and a new hand take over. It was strangely intimate, like reading a diary that only contained one word. And then I noticed something. Every so often, maybe once every couple hundred entries, the number wasn't 11, it was 12, and next to the 12 in the same hand, Every single time was a small note, just 2 words, recounted, 11, same hour, a few minutes later. As if the operator had counted 12, not believed it, walked back out, recounted, gotten 11, and corrected the record. I found maybe 15 of these going back years. Different operators, different handwriting, same pattern. Count 12. Disbelieve, recount. 11. I remember thinking it was almost sweet, in a way, proof that everyone who'd sat in that chair had been as bored and prone to miscounting as I was. It made me feel part of something. A long line of tired people staring at 11 holes in a wall, occasionally seeing one too many because the mind is a sloppy instrument at 3 in the morning. I mentioned it to Dorsey at shift change. I said something like, hey, I was reading the old logs. Looks like everybody miscounts to 12 once in a while. I expected him to laugh. He didn't laugh. He went very still, the way a deer goes still, and he said, when you count 12, what do you do? I haven't yet, I said. But the procedure'd be to recount, right? Like everybody did. That's right, he said. You recount. You always recount. And then he said something that I didn't think about for weeks, but that I have thought about every day since. He said, and you keep your eyes on it while you recount. You don't look away from it to count the others. You find the one that shouldn't be there, and you keep looking at it, and you count the rest around it. You understand? I said, I didn't really. You will, he said, and he picked up his lunch cooler and left, and that was a Friday, and I had the weekend off, and when I came back Monday, there was a different day man, a kid named Petrov, who told me Dorsey had put in for a transfer to the water treatment plant on the other side of the county, effective immediately. I never saw Dorsey again. I tried calling him once later when things got bad. The number was disconnected, so now it's March, the big storm. They'd been warning about it for days, one of those systems that stalls over the region and just sits there raining, and the river was already high from a wet winter. By the time I clocked in at 6, the channel was running fuller than I'd ever seen it, all 3 pumps going, the whole building shuddering with the work of it. Petrov briefed me fast, told me the river was forecast to crest around 4 in the morning, told me to call the supervisor's cell if any pump tripped because they wanted to know in real time tonight, and then he got out of there because the roads were already starting to flood and he had a 40-minute drive. For the first few hours it was just work, loud, wet, busy work. I was up and down off that chair constantly watching the pump amperage, listening for the change in pitch that means a motor is straining. I did my hourly counts the way I always did. Out to the catwalk, lean on the rail. 11 back inside. The water below was a brown churning thing now full of debris, and the tunnel mouths were half submerged. The smaller ones almost underwater, but I could still count them. 11, 11, 11. At about 2 in the morning, pump 3 tripped. The good one, the newer one. I got the alarm. I ran the restart sequence. It came back. I called the supervisor and told him. He said, keep him posted. And by the time all that was done, it was 2:50. And I realized I'd missed my 2 o'clock count in the chaos. I went out to do it late. The catwalk was loud and wet, mist coming up off the channel. I leaned on the rail and counted left to right the way I always did. 1, 2, 3, the big one, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There was a 12th tunnel mouth at the far right end of the wall, past the smallest one, past where the wall should have ended. It was a medium-sized arch, maybe 4 feet across, and the concrete around it was the same stained gray as all the others. And it had clearly always been there. It fit, it belonged, except that I had counted that wall over 1,000 times, and there had never been anything past Tunnel 11 but bare wall. I did exactly what 15 frightened operators before me had done. I didn't believe it. I told myself I'd lost count because of the pump, because I was rattled, because it was almost 3 in the morning. I recounted. But I did not do what Dorsey told me to do. I did not keep my eyes on the extra one. I started over from the left, 1, 2, 3, the normal way, the way the numbness wanted me to, and when I got to the right end of the wall, there were 11 tunnels and bare concrete past the last one, exactly as there had always been. I felt the relief go through me like a warm drink. Miscounted, of course, I almost laughed. I went inside and I wrote it in the log the way the others had. 12, recounted. 11, 2:54 a.m., my initials. I felt like I'd joined the club. I'd seen the famous 12th tunnel and corrected myself like a professional. I want to stop here and tell you about the cameras, because this is the part that took the floor out from under me. The station has security cameras, 4 of them, feeding to a little monitor in the control room and recording to a box that holds about a week. 2 of the cameras cover the channel. I'd never had a reason to look at the footage. But after that night, I couldn't stop thinking about the 12th tunnel, and the next slow shift I pulled up the recording from 2:54 to see myself miscount, because I thought it would be reassuring, like watching a magic trick explained. I found the timestamp. I watched myself walk out onto the catwalk and lean on the rail. The camera angle showed the far wall, the tunnel mouths over my shoulder, and in the footage there were 11 tunnels. While I counted the first time, while I counted 12, there were 11. The 12th was not on the camera. The wall past tunnel 11 was bare, so I'd miscounted after all. That should have been the end of it. Except I kept watching because I'm thorough, or because some part of me already knew to keep watching. I watched myself recount. I watched myself get 11 and relax and turn to go inside. And as I turned away from the wall in the second when my back was to it, in the footage, not in my memory, in the footage, the 12th tunnel was there. A dark arch appeared in the bare concrete past tunnel 11 the instant I stopped looking at it, and it was gone again the next time the camera caught the wall straight on after the angle shifted as I walked. I watched it 40 times. The pattern was perfect. When I was looking at the wall 11, the moment I looked away 12, the thing did not exist when observed. It existed only in the gap. That's when Dorsey's words landed on me with their full weight. You keep your eyes on it. You don't look away from it. Find the one that shouldn't be there and keep looking at it and count the rest around it. The procedure wasn't about accuracy. The recount wasn't a correction. The recount was the act. By looking at the 12th tunnel, by holding it in your sight, you forced it back into the wall, you made it 11, you closed it. And every operator for decades had been doing this without understanding it, writing recounted 11, the way you'd cross yourself out of habit, performing a containment ritual they thought was a clerical correction. And I had done it wrong. I'd recounted from the left like a numb man. I'd never put my eyes on the 12th tunnel at all. I'd looked away from it and gotten 11 by luck, by the angle, by the thing's own rules, but I'd never actually closed it. I'd only failed to see it open. I told myself this was insane. I'm telling you now that it's insane. I have a community college degree and a 401k, and I have never once in my life believed in anything you'd put in a video like this. But I had the footage. I watched it until the sun came up and the dayman knocked on the door, and I drove home in the gray morning and I did not sleep. I went back the next night because I needed the job and because I needed to know. I told myself I'd do it right. If I counted 12 again, I'd keep my eyes on it, I'd hold it, I'd recount around it the way Dorsey said. I'd close it properly. I had a plan, and having a plan made it bearable. It rained for 9 straight days that March. The river crested and stayed crested. I counted 11 for 6 of those nights and started to wonder if I'd lost my mind, which honestly would have been a relief. The footage of the 12th tunnel was still on the recorder. I checked it sometimes to make sure I hadn't dreamed it. It was always there, the dark arch appearing in the gap of my own turning body, frame after frame. On the 7th night at 3:11 in the morning, I walked out and counted 12. I kept my eyes on it. I want that on the record, in case anyone ever reads this. I did it right. The 12th tunnel was at the far right, the medium arch, and I fixed my eyes on it, and I did not look away, and I counted the others in my side vision, 1 through 11, holding the 12th in the center of my sight the whole time the way Dorsey said. I held it, and I watched it while I held it slowly stop being a tunnel. Because here's the thing nobody wrote in the logbook, the thing you only learn if you actually do it right, the thing Dorsey couldn't make himself say at shift change. When you keep your eyes on the 12th tunnel, it doesn't close like a door. It resists. It knows it's being looked at, and as I stood there holding it in my sight, the dark inside the arch was not empty. There was the suggestion of a shape standing just inside it, at the edge of the flashlight's reach, a tall, narrow shape that did not move and did not have features I could name, and the longer I looked, the more it was a person, and the more it was definitely, certainly not a person. And I understood that the counting wasn't keeping the tunnel closed. It was keeping that closed. The tunnel was just the way it came through, and the looking was the only thing it couldn't pass, so I looked. God help me. I stood on that catwalk with the river roaring under me, and I stared into that arch at the thing inside it, and I did not blink, and I counted the other 11 tunnels around it in my numb peripheral vision, 1 through 11, over and over, the way you'd recite something to keep from screaming, and the shape did not advance and did not retreat. It just waited, patient as concrete, for me to look away. I don't know how long I stood there. The footage later showed 11 minutes. It felt like the rest of my life. My eyes burned. My legs shook. And the whole time I understood, with a clarity I have never had about anything, that every operator who'd written recounted. 11 had stood here and done this and gone home and never spoken of it, and that the job was never about the pumps. The pumps are real and the flooding is real, but the pumps are the reason they can justify paying a man to sit alone in this building all night and walk this catwalk every hour. The county doesn't know. The supervisors don't know. The procedure has outlived everyone who understood it. It survives as a habit, passed down operator to operator, count the tunnels, write the number, recount if it's 12, and the only people who ever learn what they're really doing are the ones who do it wrong once and then look at the footage. In the end, it wasn't courage that broke the standoff. It was pump 2. It tripped at 322, and the alarm went off in the control room, and the sound of it reached the catwalk, that flat electronic shriek, and on pure trained reflex, 4 months of running to that sound, I turned my head toward the door, half a second less. When I looked back, the 12th tunnel was gone, bare wall past tunnel 11, the way it's supposed to be. And the catwalk, which had been empty except for me, was not quite empty anymore, because 40 feet down the steel walkway, near the door I had to go through to reach the control room, there was a tall, narrow shape standing in the dark between two light fixtures, in the gap the sodium lamps didn't quite reach. I did the only thing I knew how to do. I looked at it, I put my eyes on it, and I did not look away. And I started walking toward it, because the door was behind it, and I had to get to the door, and as long as I looked at it, it stayed a shape and did not become anything worse. It did not move as I came toward it. It let me get close. It let me get within 10 feet, where the lamplight should have reached it and didn't, where I could see that it was tall and thin and stood like a person waiting for a bus, and I kept my eyes on it and I edged along the rail past it, sideways, the channel roaring under me, never looking away until I was at the door, and I backed through the door still looking at it, and the last thing I saw before the door swung shut was that it had, very slightly, finally, turned its head to keep facing me. I restarted pump 2. My hands were shaking so badly it took 3 tries. I called the supervisor like I was supposed to. I sat in that control room with the door's deadbolt thrown until the sun came up, and I did not do another count, the only hours I have ever skipped. And at 6 I told the day man I was sick and I drove home and I quit by email. That afternoon, that was 14 months ago, I never went back. I don't know who counts the tunnels now, or if they do it right, or if they know what I know. I think about that a lot. I think about the new operator flipping through that green logbook on a slow night, finding the elevens, finding the occasional recounted 11, and feeling like I did, that he's part of something old and harmless. I think about the entry I should have written and didn't, the one explaining what the recount is actually for. I think about the fact that the procedure has held for decades on nothing but habit and a few frightened men telling the next man to keep his eyes on, and that I broke the chain when I quit without telling anyone. I drove past the station once, this past winter, on a clear cold night with no rain in the forecast and the channel surely empty. The building looked the same, flat and gray behind its fence. There was a light on in the control room, somebody was working, and I sat in my car across the road for a long time, and I'll tell you the thing that made me put the car in gear and drive home and lock my doors and not sleep. The county map still says 11 tunnels. I've checked. It's a public document, you can pull it up online, the engineering schematic of the Brant Creek Flood Control Station, and it shows 11 inflow tunnels, surveyed and certified, the same 11 that have been there since the station was built in 1971. But the original construction blueprints from 1971, which are also public if you know which office to call, show that the contractor poured 12 inflow tunnels. And somewhere between the pouring and the survey, between 1971 and the first certified map, someone went down to that channel and counted and decided that the right number, the only safe number, the number you write down no matter what your eyes tell you, was 11. So they sealed one, not with concrete, with a man and a flashlight and a clipboard every hour, on the hour for 50 years. Keep your eyes on it. Whoever you are, whoever counts now. When it's 12, keep your eyes on it. Don't write it down and walk away like I almost did. Don't trust the recount. Look at the one that shouldn't be there and hold it, and don't turn your head no matter what trips in that building. It will wait. It has nothing but time. The only thing it doesn't have is a moment when nobody's looking. Make sure it never gets one.